Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of my HLTV Fantasy. Today we are looking at Blast Premier Fall Groups 2022. And as you might notice by my attire, of course, also by the title of this video, we have reached a pretty special milestone today. We have reached 100 episodes of my HLTV Fantasy. Not something I expected would happen when I started recording these videos. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but the reason I started making these videos is just to kind of talk through the videos by myself, talk through my lineups more so, share it with a couple friends, for example, and hear what they have to say about what I think about each tournament and my lineup for each of them. I had kind of just gotten started in fantasy. I had played a couple events and I already felt like it was something very fun to me. I had already watched Counter-Strike for a pretty good amount of time, and it was something that I felt was really fun for me. And also I noticed that there wasn't a lot of content in that space yet. There was really no creators in Counter-Strike fantasy. So I felt like, why not me? Why shouldn't I be the one to make these videos? So now here we are, 100 episodes, or this will be the 100th episode. Of course, I've made over 100 videos by now, when you calculate also ego fantasy videos and a couple of non-my HLTV fantasy videos, apart from those as well. But this is, of course, the main series on my channel, and I think it always will be. And because of that, I wanted to celebrate this 100th episode in a correct attire. And yeah, hopefully everyone will enjoy this episode just as much as every previous one. And hopefully there will be another 100 episodes after this one. Would be great to continue doing these for as long as I can. And for as long as fantasy stays fun for me, as it still definitely does. Now let's actually get into this event. It's just the group stage for Blast Premier Fall of 2022. It calculates this group stage of best of ones, and then this single elimination bracket as well, with also these tiebreakers or last chance stage calculated in there. Either way, what you are kind of looking to do is just pick the best players from the best teams of each group, like 2-2-1. There's 3 groups, which makes that pretty easy. You just pick the team who you think is going to do the best in each group, and then pick players from those teams. Personally, I already talked through this a bit in my Ego App Fantasy video, but I'll go through it shortly here as well. Vitality is probably the favorite, whereas OG is probably the lowest amount of lowest tier team in here. But honestly, this is probably the toughest group to predict. I think all 4 of these teams could win, and I wouldn't see it as a huge upset. I think the biggest upset would be OG winning. But also NIP and Astralis, very decent teams. I would not be opposed to picking a player from NIP, for example. I don't think I want to go for Astralis. It's basically in Group A, it's between Vitality and NIP, and I've kind of made up my mind already that I only want to pick one of these, one player from either team I pick out of these. Depending on the price, it's gonna be, and usually when I pick only one player from a team, I want to go for a lower value player. And that kind of goes into the direction of SETAG so far for NIP. In Group B, it's a pretty interesting group, to be honest, because Navi might be playing without Simple and with Head Trick instead. It's not confirmed or anything yet. However, I still think Navi is just going to win this group, even if they play with Head Trick. I think they're just all around solid enough and play well enough as a team, which I can't really fully say about the other teams in the group. So I would say, yeah, Navi probably wins it even without Simple if it comes to that. Players I'm kind of thinking about there is basically all players except simple, because you don't want to go for simple and then have him replaced by head trick. Apart from that, like G2 and Liquid are both fine options. Like I wouldn't go for G2 just because of the new changes. I wouldn't go for Liquid because I don't think they are quite there yet, at least. They might eventually actually be there. Like they might actually become a good enough team, I think, if Yakindar signs full time. But we'll have to see about that. I still think Navi is the best team here. And then Group C. So we have FaZe as the obvious favorite, EG as the obvious worst team, Heroic probably the second best team, and there's, I think, a good amount of upset potential with Heroic. It's something I'm considering, is going for 2 players from Heroic, just because, I mean, we are like post summer break and there's a lot of upsets that could happen post summer break. But I also feel like I've always had like mediocre results when I go for Heroic, because they're kind of like FaZe. They are a team where anyone can pop off because of the structure of play in their team. Like there's no clear star players apart from Staven lately. But yeah, Heroic definitely an option. And Big also, I would say, is a decent team, but they also brought in Crimbo, and that might actually take more adjusting than one might expect. It's between FaZe and Heroic for this group. I could actually go for the Heroic pick if I want to gamble a bit more, I would say. What needs to be said also, there's a couple things. Okay, here we have like the most picked players, but of course a new fantasy season also started here. This is the first event for the new season, so points matter again for me as well. Like points are very important. I want to do well in this season, just like any season, of course. But especially at the beginning, you want to have a good start. It's tough to climb back if you have a poor start. But I am pretty confident that I am going with Navi. Looking at the player prices, I think Electronic seems like a really nice pick. He's just a LAN beast. Even though he's IGLing, he's been playing even better than before he IGL'd. Somda Young could be a good pick for 194, but also Perfecto. There's like, you could pick Bid as well. A lot of options. I'm just gonna try and build something. As I talked about earlier, I feel like Esetag is gonna be a part of this lineup either way. Just because he has a high potential to get a lot of stats. He's cheap enough where you can have him as the cheap player. At least he should be cheap enough for that. And then, I mean, he's OPing. He's playing for a good team. I think there's like all of the things match with him. With Vitality, by the way, this is also one of the things you want to point out. I feel like the addition of someone like Spinks is great in the long run and definitely good for the team in general. But I think there's this slight problem of picking anyone from these is kind of stupid, because you don't really know the roles that well. You don't know who's going to be playing or getting all of the stats, because there's no way everyone is getting this high stats if Vitality do as well as they have in the past. It's like pretty tough to do this well across the board with their players. So Heroic. Do I want to go for Heroic instead of FaZe? Is basically my question here. Because if I go for FaZe, I can get... what can I get? I can't quite get that. Probably not going to be an Electronic lineup then. So it would be something like this, basically. At least a lot of the time. I mean, this looks like a really good lineup. I have nothing against this lineup. What about if we go for Heroic? Which player should it be then? If you go for Heroic, I mean, Shush looks like he could be the player. I mean, it could be any of these players. Like, it's always the same thing with Heroic, where anyone can really do well. We almost have too much cash if we go for Heroic. Could we get someone else from NIP then? Could get Plopsky. Is Plopsky's probably a pretty good pick. I mean, if you go Samdai Young, we could get even like Hampus, right? Hampus could be such a nice pick. This also has an AWP. Man, these lineups all look so good. How did Hampus do in his like last event? He did pretty damn well at Cologne. I feel like this is just the lineup. You get to play double Heroic. I like Heroic as a team. I know it's not the most popular team, but I think just the fact that anyone can pop off, I kind of enjoy that. I enjoy watching a CS where any player can kind of have their moment to shine. Yeah, Navi. Electronic is so good. He's been so insane lately as well. Like if you look at his rating across the last few events, like this is really, really good when you're playing with Simple as well. I'm just going with this. I don't know. I don't see the reason why I shouldn't go for this. It's probably IGL, Samdai Young, Electronic like CT rating, main op. It could be multi-kill, Shush, and Hampus like entry, I guess. Probably. That's okay entry, but not like the best. Hampus is not like the greatest role player, but entry fragger is fine for him. Main op always gonna be the thing, and also it's like one of those things where Hampus is going for entries quite a lot, but he's probably not getting them as much just because his role is such that he's gonna die a bit more when he's attempting for entries than someone who's getting like a lot of support from utility when he's entering. Whereas Hampus a lot of the time he's just kind of running in without a lot of support, and he's gonna be traded a lot more, which means that if NIP are doing well, that could very well be one of the reasons could be that Hampus is actually hitting his shots. He is actually getting those entries. So that makes it a bit better, I think, the role. That kind of works the same way with a lot of roles, but not with all of them. So I think this is always gonna happen. Or should we go IGL Shush instead? Could go IGL Shush instead, and then, I mean, how good are all the other things on Shush here? Not that great, and then Samdai Young could be support, right? Yeah, that makes sense. That makes more sense, actually. And then multi or CT, probably CT. Yeah, CT is good. Yeah, I like this lineup. It's pretty good. It has good potential. Man, it's sometimes hard to speak, especially when you haven't like spoken English for a while, because I mean, this is the main place where I speak English. Yeah, booster time. Big should be the easiest. So like KAST is definitely on the table on this first round. Definitely Samdai and KAST. Never in doubt here. What else? These are best of ones, by the way. Like there's actually... Okay, let's actually check that out. So if all my teams win their things, they all get placed here. And they only play like one match or 2 matches max. So we should just use all our boosters straight away on the best of one stage, because there's only like 1, 2, 3. That's like 15 matches in this. 17, 18. Actually, we should maybe save a couple of boosters for later, but I don't think KSD is one of them. And I don't think the first round is a place where I should save boosters. But I might save some boosters up here maybe, depending a bit. Just because these are best of ones all the way through, which is kind of stupid, but it's how it is. Electronic as bait. I don't think that's happening now. 30 bomb. 30 bomb shush. I mean, there's no real 30 bomb players except for maybe Electronic. A shush 30 bomb, which is big. I can see that happening. Sure, let's go for it. Headshot player, definitely not Electronic. It's gonna be Sunday Young eventually, actually. Sunday Young good for these boosters. KDM Flash makes sense. Best pistol round. Shush as well. You can do that later. Obviously you want to use this actually. Nade kills. Hampus is actually our nade guy. We can do nade kills here. It's fine. And then Roulette here. And that's fine. Actually, maybe there's something better than Roulette. I mean, top of scorecard, I'll save for when I know whether or not Electronic is playing or whether or not Simple is playing. If Simple isn't playing, I want to have top of scorecard and Electronic. Otherwise, Hampus is fine for it. We can do that, no problems. Ace Electronic. We can do Ace instead of Roulette. We can do Roulette later. Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty happy. Although I didn't actually go over most pick players. Yeah, there's like 4 FaZe players. I think the thing is that I think FaZe is kind of a team that's still prone to choking. Like they aren't like super dominant, at least I don't think. I wouldn't say that they are gonna dominate this group stage the way many people think. Whereas I think Navi is way more consistent, where they do really well against this lower tier, whereas FaZe might still struggle slightly. Yekindar as the 8th most picked is interesting. He was under 200 grand, but I don't think Liquid is good enough to pick even with Yekindar for that cheap. Also, Yekindar stats wise actually hasn't been that great for Liquid, just so you know. Like he isn't doing the same stats for Liquid so far as he did for VP. But yeah, that's my lineup for this this stage. By the way, when is the next stage gonna be played? Am I going to basically be... Oh, is there like a long break between Blast Premiere, Fall... Fall, whatever, Final... 2022, it's a LAN in Copenhagen in November, so it's like way later. Wait, so how does this work? Where are these guys qualifying to if they win here? Yeah, they make it to the fall final. So it's basically going to be played way later. Which other events are going on? So there's EPL starting, but that's a bit later. This is also taking like so long. Wait, what? I thought there was like 3 days of groups here. Then there's Sunday is the... Wait, oh yeah, there's still several days until this starts. Yeah, I forgot about that. I thought it was like starting very soon. I forgot about the fact that it takes a while. And it's like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Okay, makes sense. But yeah, I think this is it for this episode. I want to thank you again, everyone who's watched any of my videos, any of my content. Thank you so much. It's very fun to make these videos still to me, and I definitely will continue doing it and making lineups this season as well as the videos where I really like talking through it, because it also helps me make better lineups. I feel it helps me articulate what I'm thinking, and then if I'm saying something stupid, I kind of hear it out loud. And also just I think that's something that a lot of competitive strategy game players also talk about every now and then, how talking things aloud can actually help you play better. But yeah, if you enjoy my content and you know any people who like Counter-Strike or Counter-Strike Fantasy, or anyone who could enjoy my content, feel free to share it. also, so we can make this community even bigger. We are already almost at 200 subscribers, which is completely insane to me. I don't really, I haven't really advertised my stream by myself. I remember a while back, Professor, so this HLTV admin and one of the HLTV employees, who's also, of course, making HLTV Confirmed, one of my favorite podcasts, which I always watch, shouted out my channel, and I got a nice influx of followers. And I think also just the fact that people just watch more fantasy content and people just play fantasy more seriously with seasons has given my channel a slight boost, which is great to see. But I don't want to make this video too long. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.